Just a quick overview of today's agenda. We're going to be talking through a reminder about submitting templates. Then we're going to hand it over to today's keynote speaker and just wrap up by reminding you of some upcoming events. My name is Lisa Vellos. I'm from Bucknell University, and I'll be your host today. Our keynote speaker is Dave Hoffman from Colorado State University. As I mentioned, I don't know if you've attended the last few meetings, but we've been promoting our template collection, which we're trying to start building on our website. There's a few out there already, and we're continuing to add more. I encourage you, if you have not submitted any sample templates, please take a few moments now that the academic year is over and submit some templates. You will need this secret code, the EDU PMCG code down here to submit templates on the form. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Dave Hoffman, as I said, from Colorado State University. He's today's keynote speaker. If you have questions for Dave while he's speaking, he's going to pause every once in a while and handle questions, but please do put them in the chat window and we'll get those over to Dave. So Dave, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to you.
Great, thanks Lisa, and let me share my screen. So first of all, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining. I think hopefully we'll give you a little idea of what happened here at Colorado State to get a project management office off the ground and going, and how we got here. And have a little fun along the way too. So as Lisa said, my name's Dave Hoffman. I'm Senior Project Manager, and I put in PMO Director on this slide. Actually, that's very newly minted. It was actually just approved last week. It doesn't take effect till July 1st. So we are just getting started on our project management office, but kind of wanted to talk through how did we get from get to this point on things. So a little bit creating a PMO business plan for Colorado State University, and a little bit on how we came to creating this for our central IT division and then for the university and what we're looking for going forward. So a little bit of background and history. We'll talk about what our process was for creating the business plan, which has become the charter for the project management office, next steps, and then some challenges we have. And as Lisa mentioned, I'll pause along the way to see what questions people may have, see what we can do there. So first of all, just start a little bit of background and history, and was curious if this might sound familiar to folks on your campus. First question I often ask is, how did we get here? How did we get to this point? And I was kind of thinking about this, relating this back to, I don't know if some of you know Nir Zook, who's the CEO at Palo Alto Networks. But in 2013, he was interviewed. And at the time, the company was growing, and the reporter asked him, I said, you know, your company's growing and you're hiring like 100 people every month. Is that true? And his comment was, yep, but these are like hardworking employees. They're not project managers. And he went on to say that, you know, as soon as you start hiring project managers, that's the beginning of the end. We need people that actually do real work around here. An interesting article. But yesterday I went on Palo Alto's network and I found this ad: project manager, lead unit, number 42 consulting, Washington, D.C., 3 to 5 years project management experience, PMP certified, certification preferred, governance, wanting to make sure we have governance and project planning and all of those things you would think around a project manager PMO thing. And they currently do have a project management office. So I don't know what happened between 2013 and today to get them from where they were to where they are now with project management. But I thought I'd take a little bit of a look back for CSU on how we did this, and thought I'd kind of start with this project management maturity model that I think most of us have probably seen. So 2010, I was hired at CSU. And I was hired, I came from the outside for-profit world and that had never worked in higher ed. And I can tell you, it took me a good 6 to 9 months to figure out how to get things done in higher ed. And I was hired to actually convert our campus off of an old Nortel system to a SIP system that was an open source system, as well as to implement the Koali research module for our research division, which is now known as, it was known as Koali COIAS at the time. So, you know, for the first 9 months, I wasn't really fully equipped. I didn't understand the culture, but I kept telling the folks there, you know, if we just had a project management office, you could just put in a request and a project manager would be assigned. You didn't have to wait to hire somebody and for them to get up to speed. I don't know what the hiring process is on your campuses, but it took them 5 months to hire me through our hiring process at CSU. So it was really more like a year before the project they wanted to start actually started. So we started to work through some things. I started to work through that. 2013, I think we had some common language started where people started to see the value of project management along the way. And I started getting asked by our vice president of IT, hey, Dave, could you just lead this project? It's not for the IT division, but it's for this other division. But please don't use any of that formal PMBOK project management stuff. And I would say, so why do you want me to lead that project? And his answer was, well, I know if you lead it, it'll get done. So I started to see the value of project management, even though they didn't really appreciate some of the processes that we have to do to get there. So 2013, we started to have some common processes within our division. We started to look at, you know, how do we do governance? How do we do some of those things as we started to grow in our project management maturity along the way? And then in 2019, we got to a point where we're actually using a singular methodology in our division. So our central IT division, and at the time I was working for the Academic Computing Networking Services division at CSU. So we started working on that. And we got there, and just about this same time, we got brand new leadership at the university. So our vice president of IT retired, my boss in Academic Computing Networking Services retired, the director of information services, our other central IT group retired. We got a new president, as our president was promoted to our system chancellor. So a whole lot of new faces and thoughts came in, and the people that came in actually really appreciated project management and started to ask me questions about how we're doing things and where we're going with that. And one of the first things that my new boss asked me to do was to, well, during this time I had completed a master's degree in project management and had written my capstone project was on creating a PMO at the university. And I'd given that to my new boss, and he said, let's look into that a little bit more. And he wanted me to really start doing some peer institution reviews. And so I started talking with some folks that were in our provost's list of peer institutions, as well as some other folks I knew across the higher ed community that I'd worked with in the Koali days. Started talking with some of those and getting some input, and really kind of starting to rebuild some of that project management value again on campus. And then 2020 came along, the pandemic hit, but we decided we were going to reorganize. So like I said, our vice president of IT retired. We got a new vice president of IT who came in and said, you know, it doesn't make sense to have 3 different central IT groups of academic computing networking services responsible for more of the academic side, information systems responsible for more of the administration and ERP side, and our telecommunications division was merging into our networking services group as we implemented, you know, our new phone systems on SIP. So they said, we're gonna reorganize and we're gonna combine all of these groups back into one. And we needed to start talking about project management, but it kind of put us back to level 1 in our maturity model because each of these teams had different processes. They had different language, they had different methodologies that they were using. So we took a little bit of a step back in our project management maturity when we looked at it as a division department, combining these 3 departments together into one big division. So we took that little bit of a step back, but my new boss came back to me and said, you know what, we do need a project management office. And he asked me to create a charter for developing a process to create a business plan. He said, I want a business plan before we decide what we're going to do. And I do want a business plan for this project management office. And so we kicked this off of October of last year with a really short time frame. He wanted this done by the end of the calendar year, by the end of December. And in scope for that was, reviewing our current processes, defining needs, and then creating steps for a 3-year rollout, and needed to recruit, a cross-departmental team. So we needed to have people from telecom, people from information systems, and people from the division I was currently working in academic computing networking services, all involved. So that's a little bit of background and history, and just pause there and see if anybody has any questions or can relate to that experience in your own institution.
So Dave, looking at the
Yeah.
chat, it doesn't look like we've got any questions coming in, but I'll just use this as a quick opportunity. If you've got questions while Dave is presenting and want to queue those up, just feel free to put them in chat. And as he takes quick breaks, I'll pass those questions on to Dave.
Sure. Yeah, and be glad to hear other experiences too. So somebody was going to say something.
Yeah, Dave, I had a question for you.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your sponsor for creating
Yes.
the PMO? At what level was he at the university, and what was his motivation?
Yeah, so the sponsor for this project is our new vice president of IT. So he's the new vice president of IT. He actually came to us a year and a half ago from University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he was one that, even in the interview process, one of the questions I asked him is where he stood as far as his view on project management. Do we need project management at all? Do we need to train people in project management that can lead their teams through projects, or do we actually need full-time project management staff and a PMO? And he was very firmly in the camp of, we need a project management full-time staff and PMO. So his reasons for doing this, and we'll get into some of those in our business plan, but the things I put on here in these circles: we want to do more coaching, we want to have standard templates and processes, training, methodologies. Where we have 4 different project management tools that we're using across our division. We're using different processes. We're not really efficient and effective on how we're doing things, as well as one of the charges we have for this business plan eventually is to create the ability to, through our governance process and through our intake process, to estimate not only the time it's going to take to finish a project, but the cost. What's the cost of that going to be? And including labor hours, what's the cost that we're going to do? So he was really interested in those types of things as sponsoring this. So I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. So do you see yourselves or your charge as being stewards of project management or being the project managers? A little bit both, John, on that, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. So stewards and project managers, depending on how things come through the governance process. So let's talk a little bit about the process for creating the business plan. And I believe that this is available in the EDUCAUSE project management community group templates. I think we were looking at this earlier, and Ed said the link may be broken to on that. So when I was asked to create this, the first thing I did was went back to the master's degree I did in project management and kind of dusted off my capstone project. And the one class I took for Project Management 530 was called the Project Management Office, where we use this as our text for the class. And in this book, in the very back, they laid out this little diagram that you're seeing here on, here's the things that you need to do to create a business plan. They call it here a charter preparation for your project management office. And there's these 6 things that we needed to do: some organizational needs determination, looking at organizational culture, some stakeholder analysis. Who are they and how does that fit into our culture? What are our current practices? How do we assess those? What are we doing well? What aren't we doing well? Some preliminary functionality. What do we think we can start to do and when? And then to kind of think through, how do we staff things? to be able to do these things. So this was kind of the outline that we used to start our project management office and our business plan as we chartered this new team, cross-functional team between the 3 areas in our division to work on this. And we kicked this off again. These were the 3 things we wanted to, the 6 things we wanted to do to get to this PMO charter preparation. And so anyway, let's talk about step 1. So our organizational needs assessment. So how did we go about doing that? In the book that I was referencing, it says the reason for establishing a PMO should include consideration for achieving project management capability improvements, as well as for achieving business management improvements. So we were tasked with looking at project management needs. What's our competency, our capability, our maturity, and other aspects of there, as well as our business management needs. What are we going to do for financial accountability and stewardship, customer satisfaction? How are we going to increase operational efficiency? Some of those things I mentioned here a little bit ago. And in order to do this, for the project management side, we used a template. And we used a template that you'll see here. So what's the purpose for establishing a PMO? Do you think when do we want to reach competency? When do we want to reach capability? When do we want to reach maturity? And we defined those on the right-hand side. So you can see some of those things under the category of planning. But we did these for the categories of planning, the categories of governance, resource management, project management skills and maturity, business planning, and communications. So we looked at these from the project management side, and we used our internal team here for people to go through, and I just put a couple of them in here, but each of the people on our internal team kind of put in here, I'd like to see us reach competency in this area in the first year of the PMO, or the second year, or the third year. And we started looking at, how do we spread some of these tasks out over the 3 years that we were asked to create the plan for. So project management needs fell into this area where we kind of ranked, when do we think we can get to these different competency, capability, maturity points in these areas. And then on the business management side, we looked at some of the same things. What's the purpose for establishing, and we asked, do we provide customer satisfaction in this area? These were more yes or no's. Are we doing this now? Do we have operational efficiency from our processes? Do we have financial stewardship? And one of the questions that our sponsors asked was across our portfolio of things. And so again, we did this in the areas of planning, governance, resource management, project management skills and maturity, business planning, and communications. So we kind of evaluated these. And if you look at the template, you'll see these templates kind of in the appendices of that business plan that is up there. And Ed just posted that the business plan link is fixed. So the link to the full business plan is fixed there. So that's a little bit about the first step in there. And let me just pause on that, see if there's any questions on this first step as we were talking through project management and business management needs. What is the definition of the category competency maturity? So competency, and I can, pull this up, but, competency is we have people that can do this. Maturity is really, this is more culturally, that's permeated more through the institution and through our division. So we kind of put those from competency. Yep, we have people that are capable of performing this function, to maturity. People are skilled at it, and we have some maturity down through the institution. Hopefully that helps. Okay, step two. Step 2 was an organizational culture examination. So primary purpose of this activity is to gain an understanding of our culture, our issues and impacts on the project management office design and development efforts. Thereby, these issues and impacts can be addressed and managed at the appropriate points in the design of the project management office and our development effort. So we looked at culture, and again, we asked ourselves, and we did a little survey with people throughout our division. How are we in these areas? Are we weak? Are we moderate? Are we pretty strong in these areas? So under this category of organizational change, ability of central IT to change or adapt operating processes and procedures. People felt we were pretty moderate in that area. We're not great at it, but we're also not weak in it. And we looked at all of these in the categories, again, of organizational change that you see here. Our business focus, we were looking at things that are business focused and related to our strategy of the institution, have alignment with our business philosophy. And so we looked at things in those areas and just ranked these as, are we strong? Are we moderate? Are we weak in these areas? So that was how we ranked the step 2. And we got to a point in our project where these were taking longer than we were hoping to do. And we had this, as I mentioned, a tight time frame of October through December. And so we kind of grouped steps 3 and 4 together. We thought we could do the stakeholder analysis and our current practice assessment at the same time. Stakeholder analysis was looking at, each of our stakeholders and who has high influence as well as high interest. So as I mentioned, our sponsor, our vice president of IT, not only has high interest, but high influence. And we were looking at ranking our stakeholders in this area. And we kind of went through that as a team and with our leadership team to talk through those things. And then we also looked at our current practice assessment at the same time, talking through the folks that have been managing projects along the way on what do we do and what do we do well. And it kind of looked like this, a stakeholder analysis. We named each of the stakeholders. So vice president of IT, our leadership team, our division directors, president of the university. And we ranked, their high, medium, low as far as influence, what they wanted their involvement to be and what their interest was in getting the PMO going. And so we put that all together. So we had a good matrix of our stakeholders and where they stood on getting the PMO together and who would be helpful in influencing others, as well as those we needed to kind of work on to get through some of the change management process and get them through some knowledge of why we're doing this, as well as some resistance that they might have to it. So we did this with the stakeholders. If any of you are familiar with the ProSci change management method, that's an area that I'm certified in. And so we use that methodology to kind of work through the change processes here. And then current practices assessment. We looked at our practices and we looked in each of these areas that you'll probably recognize: project initiation, planning, execution, closeout. There was, probably 10 or 12 different items in each one of those areas that we looked at. Current practices, do we have this? Or do we have it? Are we using it effectively? And future, do we need it? If we're not using it effectively, do we need to revise it? Or is this just new processes that we need to develop? And as we looked through each of these, and again, you'll see all of those in that template. They should all be listed, all the different pieces in each one of these areas through our project management assessment.
So Dave, this is probably a good time to cut in with this question from Adam before you get too far from your stakeholder assessment. Did at any point your stakeholder analysis drive or change your approach at any time?
It did change our approach. So Adam, thank you for that question. So yeah, it did change some of the things that we needed to do. And one of the things was actually a survey that we then went back to our frontline staff. We got some feedback from some of the folks in that stakeholder analysis. We were just looking at our top level leaders, and they were like, you need to talk with some of the folks that are frontline staff. And we had some good input from those people as well, but it did change some of that timeline. So, but the approach to how we walked through the process, it didn't change. We continued to walk through the process on these 6 steps that we got there. So hopefully that answered your question, Adam. So the fifth step in the process was examining functionality and this might look familiar to you all as well. And this was some feedback from, not only our stakeholders, but where do we want to be? Do we want to be, what kind of a project management office do we want to be? Stage 1 project office, the basic PMO, a standard PMO, the advanced or center of excellence, and where do we actually want to be as a PMO to start, and then where do we want to grow to? And from some focus groups and some things that we did with leadership and frontline things, everybody said year 1, we just need to be a basic PMO. We need to provide a standard and repeatable project management methodology for use across the projects. Not worried about what tools people use, not worried about those types of things. We really want to focus on methodology, governance, and starting to establish some estimating techniques, not only for time, but for cost as well. In step 1, and then year 2, moving into the standard PMO, establishing some more capabilities and infrastructure to support and govern a cohesive project management environment, starting to look at things more as a portfolio for our entire division, starting to align things with our strategic planning that is actually just getting underway. And working on those. And then year 3, really kind of being this lighthouse for the division, where we apply integrated and comprehensive project management capabilities throughout the division. And you'll see in our staffing plan how some of that will come about. So that's kind of what we talked about as far as where do we want to be, and we started to look at those things and how do we build that into our plan. So we developed the staffing plan. So we're going to have the PMO manager, which is the position I was just finalized that I mentioned earlier. We're going to have 3 project managers. And while we put in here that, one's going to have more of a focus in ERP area, one more in infrastructure area, one more in business analysis area, these 3 project managers in the office are going to be doing all of those things. And we're going to be learning from each other and using the skills that maybe the infrastructure person has to help the ERP or the business analyst do their jobs better and eventually put those. So how big is your PMO and IT resource pool? So our PMO right now is me. And I just created the position description for our first project manager. In that project management office, it's currently in our HR department going through classification and compensation review. Hopefully we'll have that posted before the end of the month. We do have a person that's been working with us half-time who's been doing a great job. So this first position we have is going to be an internal hire only, second person into the division, which I'm starting to work on that position description now. Will actually probably be a national search of what we want to do. So Michelle asks, where do you have business analysts? And I'm not sure, Michelle, do you mean where do we have them now? Where are we going to have those in the as part of the PMO? How do they align with the PMO? I do know from some of my peer reviews, so Nebraska and Kansas State both had mentioned that their PMOs are tightly coupled with their enterprise architects. They're tightly coupled with some business analysts, and we thought we would bring those into some business analysts into the PMO, somebody with those skills, so we can better define business goals and business needs, use cases as we work on projects.
Yeah, so Dave, let's do this. If Michelle, if that didn't answer your question, did you want to add further clarification, or does that address it? And you can mic on at this point real quickly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you for the opportunity. Know that I've heard from different groups that their PMs are performing the business analysis role, and then we're trying to separate business analysts out. And so I didn't see it in this diagram, and that was my question.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And we had some long conversations about that exact thing as we were talking about our new division reorganization and how we're going to organize of where business analyst goes, because we don't have any right now. And as the project manager, I've been doing that. I've been performing that role. We decided we needed more business analysis and we needed that role. And we talked about, does that fall into different teams to work with that? Does that fall under our engagement area? And for now, we decided we would, bring in some more of that skill set into the PMO. But also that person's going to be managing projects. They're not just going to be doing business analysis. They're going to be managing projects as well, but they're going to help all of the project managers improve their skill set and grow their skill set in the area of business analysis.
And you've got 3 more questions, but a quick query to Lisa. How are we doing on time?
We're doing pretty good. We
Okay.
have about 20 minutes left for.
All right. So
Yeah,
you want to take those 3 questions, Dave?
Sure. So did you define the measurable goals in your business plan, or will that be created later? Carol, I will get to that here in a little bit on our next steps on where we're going with that. Chris, you were actually in my notes to mention. So how did you align the unofficial PMs within IT with your PMO processes and strategic direction? So you'll see in this document right at the very top of that, there's a little cloud that says Project Management Services Team. This is very, very similar to the project management liaisons that Chris presented at the February meeting. So this is almost identical to what Chris presented at the February meeting, is the project management liaisons that they're working there at his institution. And what we've done is we've embedded these into each of the individual work units. And we have one person assigned in each of those work units. We do meet monthly with those folks and talk about the smaller projects that they're working on and what help they need and how they can, better develop project charters and make sure people are all in alignment, discuss issues they have. We're working through a Franklin Covey book with them right now called Project Management for the Unofficial Project Manager. And so some of those people, they just want to be able to be better project managers within their team. Some of them have some, aspirations for career growth into the project management area. So that's how we deal with that, Chris. Just curious, how many IT staff at CSU? So Kevin, our central IT group that I'm working with has 117. We are a decentralized IT staff with each of the colleges having their own IT staffs. Several of the administrative units have their IT staff. Part of the group I'm with, we actually have a support team that we outsource, and we hire out to provide technical support for some of our administrative units that don't have their IT staff. And I think overall, when I try to add all those up between the 8 colleges and our central IT, we probably have, and I don't know the exact number, so I'm guessing, in the 300 range of IT staff across campus. So anyway, we talked about this. So that's the staff. We are going to have an intern that's going to help us with some documentation and making sure some things are up to date. But those clouds around the top are just strong relationships that we are going to have with our campus IT partners and our enterprise architects and project governance bodies, strategic planning. There's a group on campus called Campus Communicators that we'll work closely with as well. So it kind of gives those strong alignments that we have with other groups. Kevin, yeah, I like the PM liaison idea. And Kevin, if you get a chance, you might go back and look at Chris's presentation from February, because he did a really good job laying out what they did there at California State University, San Bernardino. So he did a really good job there. And Chris is always happy to chat offline as well. So anyway, next steps. So how did we put all of this into a business plan? So how did we take all this data that we collected and then put it into a business plan? So we created it. The outline that you'll see that's in the templates has an executive overview, a justification that we put together based on what we had from our vice president of IT and others. We created a vision and mission statement for our PMO. The main piece of it is really what are our PMO's goals, functions, and metrics, which we'll talk about here in a minute. We identified all of our stakeholders, how they relate to us, and what their roles are in working with the project management office. We talked about the staffing and organizational structure. And one of the things I mentioned as we talked through what we're going to do year 1, year 2, and year 3 is that it was very clear in that we can't even start the first 6 months of the plan until we have our PMO staffing in place. We have a lot of projects going on that we need to continue to manage and run, and until we have those extra resources in place, it's not going to be possible to do much with the implementation. So that was kind of the outline for the business plan. PMO goals, we divided it into first 6 months. What are we going to do in the first 6 months? What are we going to do the rest of the first year? And what are we going to do the second and third year? So these are some of the things that I just copied directly out of the business plan. So in the first 6 months, we need to define small, medium, and large projects, outline the required project management activities and artifacts for each. We need to create standard project management methodologies that'll be used, work with division leaders to educate staff on the importance of providing labor estimates and giving some training on how to do some labor estimates, establish some project governance to align project work with the division resources and budgets. So that's our goals for the first 6 months once we launch it. Goals for the remainder of year 1, establishing this project governance to align our project work, develop the initial processes for project cost projections, including labor estimates and related budget management practices, develop a process to align and review the costs and compliance of vendor contracts. So they asked us, hey, we want you to look into the vendor contracts, and especially as they relate to the projects we manage, and is that vendor actually living up to the service level agreement that they said they were going to provide, and are they actually performing the things that are in the statement of work that they said they were going to provide? We don't have anybody doing that work right now. So we really wanted to know how the vendors were doing, and so we can start to rate some of our vendors as well. Define processes and tools for continued refinement. So this is really looking at how do we create a requirements document for what do we need for project management tools across the division if we're going to consolidate into one tool. And currently we have people that are using Trello, we have people that are using Team Dynamics, we have people that are using Excel and Word, we have people using Smartsheet, we have people that are there's another one that was out there too. It's off the top of my head. But anyway, we really want to focus on what do we need as requirements, a requirements document for not only project management, but also for our ticketing system and our process and our project intake system, and how do we merge those together. So that's the remainder of year 1 of our goals. Years 2 and 3, we're going to continue to provide project teams with training and resources to improve estimating time and effort, implement resource planning methodologies, starting to get into resource planning, which I haven't talked to anybody that maybe has the silver bullet on how to do resource planning really well. And if you do, I'd love to talk with you. Recommend and implement a portfolio of common tools, and then establish relationships with all of our campus partners to improve forecasting of future project needs. One thing you don't see on here as one of our future goals is that we are going to become what we call a cost recovery unit on campus, where other units on campus can contract our services from our PMO for projects in their college and their division, and we'll help them out on a chargeback model. We're piloting that with one of our groups right now. So we're piloting that right now with one group. So PMO, so that's what we talked about, and then we went further in the business plan, and we defined. And I'm not going to go through all of these because there's just a lot of verbiage here, but we defined what those are our goals, but what are the functions we're actually going to perform to actually meet those goals? In support of these goals, we're going to deploy the following functions, and we outlined those again for the first 6 months, for the rest of the first year. what are our functions that we're going to do to actually be able to live up to those goals. And somebody asked about project metrics and what we did there. So this is actually the statement that we have in our business plan for metrics. As the PMO develops and refines operations, it will need to develop key metrics demonstrating the value the PMO provides the division. To support this, post-project surveys, lessons learned, processes will need to be developed and implemented. And then we made a list of the following lists the key questions that the metrics need to answer. So we haven't developed the metrics yet, but we did develop the key questions that the metrics need to answer. So we haven't really worked through the process of what are those metrics, how do we get that information, but we outlined, I think there's 10 or 11 key questions that our metrics need to answer as we move through that. So a question from Deborah: for cost projections, do you charge back to the business units for CSU IT labor resources? And that is the plan, that we're going to be doing that, Deborah. So right now I'm working on a business plan in the Colorado State accounting system. Cost recovery account is what they call a 21 fund. So we have to develop a business plan for this, get things put in place. And once we have that approved through finance and we have that cost recovery account in place, then we'll keep track of our hours that we spend working with the various people, and we'll bill them directly for those hours. Right now, the student hourly I have that's working with one as a pilot, they have to track their time in our Time Clock Plus system. And we do have a project set up in there, so the hours they list in there for the project that they're doing just automatically get charged to that department based on that student hourly's current salary. But we'll be establishing a hourly cost for that, and then doing that charge back for our labor resources as we help other people. Yeah, we'll see how that shapes up too, Deborah. Let me pause here and see if there's other questions before I talk through, once we got the business plan put together, what's happened since then, and some challenges. And I know we have about 10 minutes left, so. Okay. So just to let you know, we finished the draft of this business plan on December 31st. Spent some time with reflection, review, finalizing this over the next week. We went to our executive leadership team and our leadership team on January 10th and February 1st to get feedback and get their feedback and input on it. We did a little bit of a revision and revised things, which was then finally accepted February 15th by our executive leadership team at the university, which is made up of the president, council of deans, and all of the vice presidents. And then it was approved, and in March, this was incorporated into our final division reorganization plan. So that's the process we kind of went through this spring with this. And I see a question over there I'll get to in a minute. So what's our current status? So current status, I put in here finalizing my role of the director of the PMO. Well, that was actually finished yesterday and goes into effect on July 1. We still have to determine a name for the project management office. Are we going to be called Project Management Services, Project Management Office? And if any of you have some fun, good names that you would maybe recommend for us to consider, I would like hearing that feedback. And then we're hiring our first full-time project manager, as I mentioned. That one's in place. So Carol asked, do you think chargebacks may prohibit campus groups from reaching out for PMO services? It may. Right now they don't, but in the last week, I've actually had inquiries from 4 of our 8 colleges. Hey, when are you going to be able to do that? We need somebody to help us, and we're thinking of hiring an outside consultant. And when are you going to be able to provide project management services to the university? So it may prohibit some, but I know that there is a pent-up demand for it as well, and especially as I've been managing projects for many of these colleges and things across the university. So hey, I see some some things coming in, project management office, project portfolio management office, PMPAUSE. Bill Gardner, what does that acronym stand for, Brian? I'd be curious to know what does PMPAUSE stand for. So anyway, so that's kind of where we are right now. Some challenges we have. I put in there, oh, come on, it couldn't have been that easy. And nothing's that easy. Oh, project management as a service. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. So aggressive timeline was a big challenge that we had to overcome, trying to get people involved and getting this on people's calendars, doing the surveys, doing the focus groups, doing those things on this aggressive timeline, especially when we had the Thanksgiving holiday in there, the winter break in there. So we had some challenges there. And we had one team member that was just not participating and ended up being a challenge as this team member came back to me after we did our final draft and, sent me an email. Actually, it said, I felt the project was rushed and I was excluded. And never like to hear that. And so, I kind of dusted off my crucial conversations class and talked with that person just to remind them, here's the facts that we know. Hey, the project charter had this all along, and this is the timeline we agreed to. You missed more than half of the meetings and didn't participate in any of the homework assignments and things filling out the information that we had on some of these templates. And because of that, I just assumed that you weren't that interested in this project, even though that you had volunteered and you really weren't that interested. And so we moved ahead without you. Now we did have the opportunity to get this person engaged during some of the review processes. And once they realized that, yes, that was all true, they actually became very engaged and helped refine a couple of last minute things. So some of the challenges we ran into, and that's it for the presentation. So can you share the list of key questions that your PMO metrics will answer? So let me see if I can actually just put those in the chat as we do this, but I'm going to quit sharing my screen and then I can get back to the charter and maybe cut and paste those into the chat. And if there's any other questions, yeah, please let me know. It's been a fun and interesting process to work through to get from there to here.
Thanks, Dave. If others have questions for Dave, please feel free to post them in the chat. I'm gonna once again share my screen while he's searching for that list of questions and roll through some of our upcoming events. As always, we're looking for volunteers. If you're interested in sharing your story, much like Dave and Chris did in February, we'd love to hear it and have you as one of our presenters. Here's some ideas that we've had on our list for a little while. If you're interested in any of those, but we're also open to any of your ideas as well. We are going to be having a special project management community group summer session. We normally take the month of July off, but this year we're going to have a special session at a special time. It's on July 14th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to be joined by Christina Brewster of Drake University, and she's going to discuss prioritization and estimation. Some other upcoming dates. Here is the upcoming meetings for the rest of the year. One to call your attention to is the EDUCAUSE annual conference. I believe registration for that is opening tomorrow, if I heard that correctly. It is going to be in Philadelphia this year. It's going to be offered in person and online. You might want to check that out. As always, stay tuned for more announcements of what's coming up in our August and September meetings. Again, our special meeting will be July 14th at 11:30 Eastern time. As always, we welcome you to check out our great resources. Ed has worked so hard in getting this all in shape. And just to point out the template section, that's the new and expanding area. If you have any templates you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to do that. Check out all of our different areas. All of our past webinar monthly meetings can be found in the YouTube site. So did we get any more questions for Dave?
You have some questions about where the presentation will be posted. So,
Oh,
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's typically John Brett is right. We'll post those links to the EDUCAUSE wiki. There's a list of all the meeting times, and as we have the meetings, that list becomes an active link. You can also access it directly from YouTube, which I find handy because then I don't have to have the website, and I subscribe to other YouTube channels as well. So if you're a YouTuber type person, then it'll be available there. I'm working on getting that link and pasting it right there into the chat.
We will be posting on the site as well as to the listserv,
Yep.
the link for the upcoming summer session and how to get registered for it.
Yes, and to the question about the link for the July session, I was going to include that in the reminder, but I did not want to confuse people with the two meeting links in the same message. So that will be coming out when we send the follow-up from today's session with the recording link, et cetera, that Ed was just talking about. So we'll include the July link. Additionally, for those who don't know, that the Team Dynamics Conference is going on at the same time as this today. So we may have some folks that are doing double duty between these two conferences, or between our webinar and the conference. But there was a discussion topic that came out of there about the discovery phase of projects and work upfront prior to projects becoming projects. So we might see another special meeting sponsored by the PMCG in the next month or so, related to that topic as well. So we'll let folks know as that is forming in the background. So we are here, as a reminder that yes, we do our monthly webinars, but as we start scheduling some special ones, we're a platform that can be used by the group, by the community, where we can market presentations that you may be doing. If there's a topic of interest that you have, we work to help provide that background and detail for you, so that we can market it. And then we have a place to post and publish those recordings afterwards. And one more note from my end, which is EDUCAUSE is going to be releasing a new community platform come the October timeframe. It looks like right now we may get access to it in September. So we're hoping to get some demos of it prior to then from the CG leader side, so that we can provide some more information to it and help us prepare as a community. Otherwise, expect later this fall, we will be transitioning away from some of the listserv limitations that we've had up to this point, and be able to have hopefully some more threaded discussion topics and things going on that can remain a little bit more active with the community, as well as provide the other background format. So we're hoping for a little bit of a consolidation as we see it and learn more. So I will turn it back over to Lisa for any final words. Thank you, Lisa.
Any other
And thanks,
last
Dave.
minute questions? Just wanted to thank Dave and see, Dave, did you have any follow-ups you wanted to share?
No, I think Sheba had a question in here of, does our PMO get a lot of project requests? And we do get probably at least 1 or 2 new project requests every month. We have a project review committee that reviews those on a monthly basis and recommends whether they think we should do them and whether they're a higher priority than other things we're already working on and things. So we get 1 or 2, it seems like, every month.
Well, thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you at the upcoming events, and check out the resources and this recording when we get it posted. Thanks. Have a good day.